Welcome, I'm Lauren from Zestful Kitchen, and welcome to The Everyday Gourmet, where I share realistic recipes for the avid home cook using fresh ingredients and global flavors. Today we're making Greek chicken souvlaki, which is essentially marinated chicken skewers that get grilled until they're charred and crispy. And there's one tip in here that will make them ultra juicy. It's super simple, and the prep work is really just 10 minutes, and it's a really short ingredient list. So let's get into it. So this is the most important part of the recipe, in my opinion, because brining the chicken is going to make it super tender and really moist, for lack of a better term. So what brining does is it essentially allows the meat to retain moisture. It also seasons it. The salt is important for seasoning, but most importantly, it kind of soaks up and retains moisture during cooking. So it makes super juicy and tender grilled chicken skewers, which is important when you're using boneless, skinless chicken breast, which can be very easy to dry out and overcook. But if you brine it, it's going to be a little bit harder to overcook it. And I'm just going to cut it into 1.5 to 2 inch cubes. It's really important that they're fairly similar in size so that they cook evenly on the skewers. So now we're going to put our diced chicken into our salt brine and make sure it's all submerged. And then that's it. Okay, so now that we have everything brining, we're just going to cover it and refrigerate it for at least 1.5 hours. You can do it for up to, I think, 4. It's in the recipe notes. You don't want to do it longer than 8 hours, or else the meat will actually start to go the other direction. It'll start to kind of become mealy and a little grainy. So I would say the sweet spot is 4 hours. I like to serve chicken souvlaki with tzatziki. It's very traditional. But if you don't want to make it, you can also buy it or skip it, or you could just also use yogurt. So there's a lot of options. But essentially what it is it's a yogurt and cucumber sauce. And we're going to start by grating an English cucumber. There's not that many seeds in English cucumber, but it is quite watery still. So I do like to scrape out some of those seeds. It just makes for a thicker tzatziki, which I like. So I'm just going to scrape these out. Oops. We're going to use a box grater to shred the cucumber. You can also dice the cucumber, so it just depends on what you prefer texture-wise. I recommend using an English cucumber as opposed to a regular, I think they're called pulp cucumbers. It's a thinner skin, smaller seeds, a little less watery, just a little bit more meaty. If you can't find an English cucumber, which you should be able to, you can also use Persian cucumbers. If you use a regular cucumber, I would peel the skin. So I'm just gonna add our drained cucumber to a colander. You can also use a fine mesh sieve. And we're going to salt the cucumber. What that's going to do is it's going to draw out excess moisture from the cucumber, which changes the texture of it. So it's going to obviously remove water so that your sauce doesn't get watered down. But I think more importantly, it's actually going to kind of create a firmer cucumber that really holds its texture in the sauce. So all that is combined. And then I'm just going to set it over a bowl so that it'll catch all the drippings, and then we'll squeeze the water out. Okay, so the rest of the sauce is some Greek yogurt. I use whole milk Greek yogurt because it is the best. There's just no arguing. And then a mix of herbs. You can do 3 different herbs. You can do 1 herb. You can do 2 herbs. I like an aggressive amount of herbs. So I'm doing parsley, some fresh mint, and some dill. Mint is really important in tzatziki, I think. So that's one. If you're going to choose one, I would do mint and probably parsley. But we're going to do a mix of all 3. You can just chop everything together. Makes it a lot easier. And if you have some of the tender stems in there, that's totally fine. It'll just add some texture. All right, so we're going to finely chop this. Okay, so it's pretty finely minced. It smells so good. All right, so we're going to start by putting in 1 cup of our Greek yogurt. If you are not using Greek yogurt and you're using regular yogurt, I would recommend straining it in either some paper towels or a cheesecloth just to thicken it up. So then our herbs go in. So we're going to add in about a teaspoon of lemon zest and some lemon juice. I'm just going to eyeball it. You can do as much or as little as you want. It's really preference. But I'm going to grate almost the whole lemon. Okay. And then we'll just add that in. And then since we already have our microplane out, I'm gonna use that to grate our fresh garlic. It's gonna give it a really potent, very potent garlic flavor. So if you're not a fan of raw garlic, you can use garlic powder, or you could mince the garlic. You're gonna get some bigger chunks. Grating it is gonna make a really hot, spicy garlic flavor. So if you're not so into that, then I would just do garlic powder. What else? Oh, we need some olive oil. That's all we need until our cucumber is ready, which honestly is probably pretty close. Let's see if we can get some of this water out. So you can use a clean kitchen towel to squeeze out the cucumber if you want, or you can just use your hands. The kitchen towel will soak up a little bit more. That's amazing. Let's just mix it up, and then we will season it to taste with some salt and pepper. As this sits over the course of a couple hours or a couple days, if you have leftovers, it will start to weep a little bit because that cucumber will start to release some moisture. You can just stir it in, drain it off, add a little bit more yogurt. It's very normal for it to kind of get softer or a little bit more watered down. And then we'll cover this and let it rest in the fridge with our chicken that's brining in there. That's done. Now we're gonna make the marinade for the chicken that's brining. It's very simple. It's also herb forward, but it is olive oil based. And then we're going to add in some fresh dill and, if you can find it, oregano. I could not find oregano to save my life. So I'm doing some marjoram, which is a very common substitute. So we're gonna do a tablespoon of this, or ideally oregano. Either will work. And then we'll also do a tablespoon of fresh dill. If you don't like dill, you could do tarragon, parsley, any tender herb really. Then we're going to zest another lemon. There's a lot of lemons in this. Okay, so I'm gonna just mince that a little bit because sometimes those strands can be kind of big. So add that to your olive oil. Then I like to add just a little bit of sweetness. The sweetness obviously balances the flavors, but it's also going to encourage browning while you're grilling. And then we're going to do some salt and pepper. Okay, and that's the marinade. So the beautiful thing about this is that as long as you have the rough ratios there, it doesn't even have to be perfect. As you can tell, none of these things were measured. You can really play around with whatever herbs you have in your garden or whatever herbs are at the farmer's market. So that'll be on standby until we're ready to grill. I'm going to start soaking the skewers in some water. I used to think this was kind of a myth, and I still kind of do, but I do think it helps it from not lighting on fire. So I'm just going to cut this in quarters. You want to keep them fairly large so that they can be skewered. And you really only need a small red onion. You don't need a massive one. And then I'll just trim off the end and cut them just like this. Then what we'll do is we'll break them apart. I tend to use 2 layers of onion for each time you skewer it because they stay together better. And then we will utilize the zested lemon that we used for the marinade. We're gonna slice that and also skewer that on with the chicken. It'll flavor the chicken, but also once it's grilled, you can squeeze the juice over and it's so delicious. So good. So we're gonna drain this, and then it's gonna be important that we pat it dry really well so that our marinade can stick to it. And then we will put some of the marinade on the chicken, toss it to coat, and then we're gonna reserve some of it to brush over the chicken once it's cooked. This will just add some freshness because some of those herbs will get cooked during grilling. All right, so I'll grab a 1/4 cup of this. I'm gonna reserve this for later for brushing over top. I'm just gonna massage it in there, and then we'll skewer them up. So I start with a red onion, and I just put that on the end, and then I do 4 pieces of chicken. I really like to pack the chicken in there because it keeps it really moist. You remove the risk of overcooking when you pack it together because they cook more evenly. And then you can also, you have to use less skewers, which means you don't have to turn as many skewers on the grill, which is nice. And then I'm gonna add a lemon piece. Then I'm gonna skewer this on, and then I'll do 4 more chicken pieces. So the difference between chicken souvlaki and a gyro is that a gyro is really thin pieces of meat that then are layered onto a vertical spit like this and then slow roasted. A chicken skewer is chunks of chicken, or a souvlaki is chunks of chicken that are marinated and grilled. So that's the difference between those two Greek classics. Okay, one thing we have to acknowledge is I ran out of skewers and my husband bought me skewers. These are not 12-inch skewers. These are too short. So usually what you would do, what I like to do, is do an onion, 4 pieces of chicken, a lemon, 4 pieces of chicken, a lemon, more chicken, and finish with a red onion. But these are such short skewers that we're just gonna put on a red onion and we're just gonna do more skewers that are smaller. So you can do that. You can put more onion between the chicken if you want. If you want more veggies, you can do more veggies, but I like to keep it pretty simple. Okay. Those little guys are ready for grilling. So cute. Yum. We'll go here. Oh yeah, baby. You can grill this or you can broil it. So you can broil it in your oven and just rotate it like every 3 minutes so that it's broiled on each side. You're gonna cook them for about 10 minutes total. And we'll grill it for about 10 minutes as well on medium. And then we'll finish them with our Herby sauce. We'll also grill up some pita bread, and that way you can serve it up as a sandwich or just enjoy it as skewers. Okay. Okay, that grilling adventure was quite the adventure. We're gonna finish these with some of our extra herb oil. We're just gonna brush that over top. Oh, it's so pretty. All right. So pretty. Okay, and then we have our tzatziki that we made earlier. So I'll just give it a stir because it has likely weeped a little bit. Wept. It wept. So we're just gonna stir it up. It's just fine. And I'm gonna taste that really quick. We probably need to add a little salt. That's good. Makes like the sides of your tongue water a little bit because it's so citrusy. So good. Okay. Yum, delicious. Okay, so you can serve this as is. I often just put this on the table like this with some pita on the side, and then people can eat it however they want. If you want to, you can make a sandwich and just open up the pita, put the chicken in with the tzatziki, and make a sandwich. That is the perfect summertime dinner. Oh my God. The super cool, bright, tangy tzatziki with the slightly sweet herby chicken is unbelievable. I highly recommend keeping this in the fridge so you can have the cool temperature and the hot chicken as well. The temperature also plays into it. It's so good. So whether or not you make the tzatziki or not, I would recommend making these skewers because it's a great way to use up all the summer herbs you have on hand. It's a great way to use up those random vegetables hanging around in your fridge. You can just skewer those on there as well. If you're intimidated to grill chicken breast, this is a great starter recipe because it's almost impossible to overcook it with that brining step that we did in the beginning. So you can get the full recipe for this chicken souvlaki as well as the tzatziki on my website. I'll link everything below and let me know how it is. If you make it, I want to hear how you enjoyed it. I'll be right back here next week with another everyday gourmet. Stupid. Oh, stupid. I'm stupid. I stupid.